Thousands of miles away, the rot has set in. This was once a monastery. But where do the disenchanted Christians go? In Africa, the usual alternatives are Islam, traditional religion, or the secular world of no God at all. But there is a fourth option. Independent African churches are one answer to Christianity's crisis of relevance. One compelling example in Zaire is the Church of Kimbangu.
Kimbangu.
Simon Kimbangu, a follower of the Baptist mission, started preaching the Christian gospel of one God in the Lower Congo after the First World War. But, as this theatrical reenactment shows, he was preaching under a possessive colonial order. Kimbangu was arrested on the orders of the Belgian colonial authorities. He stood trial in chains in October 1921. He was sentenced to death, but this was commuted to life imprisonment. In his martyrdom, a major African Christian movement with profound African concerns was born. A prophet in a cage. This was the long, sad fate of Simon Kimbangu. He spent here almost as long as Jesus Christ spent on earth. You know, it's extraordinary how a religion doctrinally based on martyrdom on the cross, the martyrdom of Jesus, should have been used in colonial circumstances to persecute others and create new martyrs. And Simon Kimbangu was only one in a long tradition in Central Africa. As far back as 1706, a woman, a young woman, holding her baby son, was burnt on the stake. She was Donna Beatrice, otherwise known as Kimpavita. She was part of the struggle. Her suggestions, her reforms, were perhaps even more fundamental than Simon Kimbangu ever attempted. For example, she asserted that many of the apostles were not Hebrews at all, but were in fact Africans accompanying Jesus, that the patron saint of Portugal was an African, that Jesus never prohibited polygamy, and the most controversial of her assertions, that the virgin birth was not a monopoly of the mother of Jesus, that an African woman with God's intervention was as capable of producing a child while still a virgin as anybody in Bethlehem or Nazareth. Well, those were pretty radical assertions. And when she sought to demonstrate the virgin birth theory by having a baby son of her own, that was almost too much. The Portuguese missionaries, the Portuguese officials set to work. She died there on the stake. And out of the ashes came new movements, of which this particular one, of Simon Kimbangu, is among the most successful. They have, they say, some 4 million followers now. When you think about it, that's more than Jesus Christ had in the first 3 centuries of the Christian era. In colonial days, they held clandestine meetings and called themselves Malemba, meaning softly, softly, the service of secrecy. Today, the Kimbanguists have found their voice again, marching proudly by, self-reliant spiritually and financially. The Kimbanguists believe in the crucifixion as an event, but are cautious about the regular use of the cross as a symbol. Excessive use of the crucifix, they maintain, could be a case of worshipping a graven image. If Jesus wanted to communicate with black people, would he have chosen white missionaries? Kimbangu was an African response to Christianity's crisis of relevance, a black messenger from Jesus.